AI is rewriting the classroom playbook, and it's not just students using it. Teachers are turning to chatbots too, with results that are both impressive and troubling. OpenAI's Sam Altman is facing accusation of bluffing about GPT-5, and one critic claims that Altman has a very specific tell when he's not telling the truth. Just 15 minutes of brisk walking a day could cut your risk of early death by 20%. In Texas, Attorney General Ken Paxton wants Beto O'Rourke jailed as the state's redistricting fight turns even more aggressive. And in Texarkana, Democrats poured in billions of dollars, brought jobs, and boosted the economy. But voters responded by backing Republicans in even bigger numbers. All that and more on Filtered with TJ Walker. Okay, thanks so much for joining me today. This is Filtered with TJ Walker. We got a fun show for you today. All the top stories, business stories, AI stories, technology stories, and culture stories analyzed through the filter of communication skills and personal development, all with the goal of making you better, smarter, more successful. It's so easy to watch the news and just get depressed or bummed out or doom scroll. We like to do things a little differently around here on Filtered and have you actually improve yourself, become more successful by studying and watching the news. So that's really what we're all about right here. So let's hop in with the first story of the day. All in the classroom, help or homework hacker, according to The Atlantic. This year's graduating seniors are the last to remember high school before ChatGPT. Since its release in 2022, AI has gone from a novelty to an everyday tool for students, whether for study help or sidestepping homework rules. Students now use multiple AI models to evade plagiarism detection, even asking bots to insert human-like typos. Some use AI for legitimate purposes like personalized study guides or instant feedback. Teachers, too, are adopting AI to save hours on grading, lesson planning, and administrative work. Platforms like Magic School AI let educators generate rubrics, worksheets, and even report card comments. Its founder says it's used in every U.S. school district. Major districts, including Miami, right near me, have rolled out chatbots for tutoring and classroom role play. But not all AI in schools work as intended. Some parents in Houston complained of bizarre, error-filled AI-generated materials. Despite concerns, national policy is pushing ahead. The Trump administration's executive order promotes AI in all subjects, with Microsoft pledging $4 billion to expand AI education. The debate is now less about if AI will be used in schools and more about how it should be used. Because once schools go all in, there may be no turning back. Okay, so what's the real message here? Like it or not, AI is here. It's in the classroom. It is here to stay. The only question is it going to help your kid learn more, build more skills, become more successful? Or is it going to rot their brain, make them lazy, help them rack up debt and become unemployed? You're going to have to work closely with your child. Your school may or may not do a good job. You've got to work with your child to make sure they're actually learning. There's so much technology. It's not just about AI. It's about, do you give your child the option of listening to the audiobook or watching the movie instead of actually reading it? You need to have your child actually read. I don't care that they don't like it. That's what they need. Teachers, I've got a message for you too. Have your kids do an actual essay in class. That will reveal who's relying on ChatGPT and who's doing the real work. Okay, let's dig a little deeper. A lot of people are getting upset about ChatGPT and AI and want to be absolutist and say, oh, none of that in our schools. We're only going to use paper and pen or paper and a quill and an inkwell. We're not going back to those days. And in some ways, this is reminiscent of people fretting about, oh my gosh, a calculator. No one will learn how to do addition or subtraction anymore. Well, didn't quite turn out like that. In the future, people who have the best jobs and maybe the only jobs are going to learn how to use artificial intelligence. They're going to learn how to use ChatGPT, Gemini, and all the others, or at least one of the others. So teachers are going to have to teach that. What we don't want to do is get in a situation where teachers are kind of sitting back, watching Facebook and watching videos, having AI create lesson plans and homeworks and tests, and students sitting back playing video games, having their own LLM and their own AI, writing the answers and writing the essays. And you got nothing but burning energy and burning fuel and messing up the environment, all for nothing, where no actual learning and no actual teaching is taking place. That's the ultimate nightmare, some fear that's happening. I have no doubt it will happen in some situations. You have to ask yourself, if you're a student, and I realize a lot of students are thinking about short term, how can I finish this homework so that I can go play video games, or I can chat and text with my friends? A lot of students have that short-term mentality. There's no doubt about it. But if you're a parent, if you're a teacher, you should be in a different game. Your whole business model, so to speak, is thinking long-term. What is in the long-term best interest of little Johnny, little Susie, little Sanjay, learning and preparing their brain, preparing a skill set, preparing critical thinking skills so they can survive and thrive regardless of where technology takes us. And it's not going to happen if we simply off-source and outsource our thinking to AI. Now, confession here, I used AI to create this graphic you're seeing right here. I had AI condense a lot of different sources to give me my opening script, which I was reading to you also through the power of AI on my AI-powered teleprompter. But right now, I'm giving you my thoughts, real thoughts that only come from me having worked in the trenches, having read thousands of books, having given thought to these issues. So you can't outsource everything, but you can use GPTs, you can use AIs to enhance what you're doing in the same way that calculators can enhance mathematicians to solve and work on far greater math problems. So they don't have to spend every single second adding long numbers or dividing long numbers together. We've got to get a mentality of using AI in the same way. And right now, it's too black or white. It's too extreme. It's either let's do everything using ChatGPT and go to the beach for the rest of the week, versus it's the biggest brain rot ever. It's destroying everything. We need to just cram it back in a box and turn it off and never use it. Both of those extremes are really missing the point. And we're going to have to find some kind of middle ground with, again, the sole goal has to be what's in the long-term best interest of students and teachers. That's really the goal here. More in just a moment after these commercial words. Imagine having a communication coach who never sleeps. Meet your new secret weapon, the TJ Walker AI clone. Go to tjwalker.ai and start getting custom coaching 24/7. No scheduling, no hourly fees. I've trained presidents, prime ministers, and Fortune 500 CEOs, but the same exact communication I've delivered to world leaders is now available to you online, anytime at MediaTrainingWorldwide.com. Whether you're speaking on camera, pitching a client, or handling a crisis, you need these tools. These aren't fluffy motivational videos. They're practical, battle-tested techniques to help you speak clearly, confidently, and persuasively. Go to MediaTrainingWorldwide.com and take your communication to the next level. Got feedback or a question for me? I actually read them, and if you send one, I'll send you a free mini course as a thank you. Just head to tjwalker.com/feedback. Ever wish you could just ask me your question live? Now you can. Every week, I go live with members only. On YouTube, it's called TJ Live. I review pitches, fix presentations, and answer your questions on the spot. It's interactive, personal, and hands-on. If you want real-time coaching in a small group setting, go to tjwalker.com/live and become a member. This isn't passive content. It's a two-way conversation. Want to make sure we stay connected even if YouTube deletes me again? Join my newsletter at substack.com/@TJWalkerSuccess. It's free, fast, and packed with exclusive insights. Does Sam Altman have a tell? According to Futurism magazine, AI researcher Gary Marcus believes OpenAI CEO Sam Altman gives himself away when he's bluffing by glancing up and away from the camera. Marcus points to a February 2025 interview in Japan where Altman hyped GPT-5 as a huge leap from GPT-4. Multiple times while making those claims, Altman's eyes drifted skyward. At the time, GPT-5 hadn't launched. Now that it has, critics say it's underwhelming, less capable than GPT-4o, in some respects easily jailbroken, and missing the human level abilities Altman hinted at. Blowback was swift enough that OpenAI reinstated GPT-4o for paying users within a day. Marcus argues that this wasn't just optimism, it was a bluff made with absolute conviction. Supporters might call it selling a vision to investors with a $500 billion valuation in sight. Either way, the tell may be worth watching in future interviews, especially when the promises are as bold as building artificial general intelligence. Okay, so what's the real message here? Can you tell just through body language if someone is lying? And the answer is definitively, in most cases, no. Yes, someone might be lying if they look up and over here because they don't want to face you and look you in the eye or look the camera in the eye. But it's also how most people think. Your eyes go up, over, you're going into a mental filing cabinet. So it's completely normal for most people when they're saying something for the first time, when they're having to recall information, when they're having to formulate a new sentence for the first time, they do that. If you ask someone, where are you from? Where did you go to school? What's your favorite hobby? They typically don't do that because those are all things they've said numerous times. Okay, let's dig a little deeper here. Am I suggesting Sam Altman doesn't stretch the truth? I'm not suggesting that. It's very rare for any CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, or certainly a $500 billion company or $1 trillion company, not to be accused credibly for stretching the truth. You want to call it a lie, you can do so. Famously, Elon Musk has made promises again and again and again, specifically regarding self-driving, autonomous vehicles that haven't panned out. He's made predictions, promises, guesses, and it's always like 2 years from now, we're going to have, 1 billion autonomous driving cars. That's a slight exaggeration, but it's always 2 years out, 5 years out, and then it doesn't happen. Now, entrepreneurs, by their very nature, are optimistic. They're projecting in the future. They have high hopes for the future. If they weren't optimistic, they would not be entrepreneurs. They would not be doing startups. They would have a steady, staid, true job. They would be an accountant at a big firm, or perhaps a government job, although I'm dating myself. Their government jobs aren't stable anymore either, at least in the United States. But you would not be an entrepreneur if you didn't fervently believe that you were going to create something from nothing, that you're creating something of ultimately much more value than what you have today. Otherwise, everything would implode. There would be no reason, no rationale for you to get out of bed in the morning. So I'm not going to tell you Sam Altman is especially egregious, especially when we have such a world-class prevaricator in Washington, D.C. these days. Now, it's fashionable to say that politicians lie, and certainly they, in general, shade things in the most positive light. I do think we have something new going on in Washington, D.C. these days, and it's common among all authoritarian regimes, and that is you just make up stuff that makes you look good, and you lie repeatedly day in and day out about everything. I'm not seeing that from the business world. Are there some con men in the business world? Yes. But you don't generally raise billions and billions of dollars in investor capital if it's easy to spot you egregiously lying. You can be optimistic, you can be bold, you can paint a picture of a beautiful future, but you can't simply make up stuff completely out of thin air about today. And if you do it often enough about earnings and what you've done, you can go to prison. We don't get to put politicians in prison for lying. And I don't think we're ever going to be able to do that. So what does this really mean? What I want you to take away from this is if you're working with someone and you feel like they're lying with you, then it's perfectly fine to see, are they always scratching their face or their nose when they're lying? If you personally detect a recurring pattern, you can connect the dots, that's fine. But I want to warn you about this broad brush of, oh, someone looked up and over their line. It's not that simple. Now, I say this as someone who has regularly gone on major network TV shows, major cable shows, to dissect the body language of criminals, politicians, prime ministers. And there's always that pressure to, the reporter wants me to say, oh, this means they're lying. And I won't do it. They could be lying, but sometimes they might just be uncertain. There are certain things that in general are true with body language. If someone is like this and it's not cold in the room, they probably are uncomfortable. If someone is gesturing and moving their hands and their face and their arms and their body and their head and they're smiling, chances are they are fairly comfortable. They're certainly acting like they're comfortable. So I do think there are things you can tell. What I try to do to help you and to help my clients around the globe, whether they are billionaire fund managers, top executives at major companies, or political figures, prime ministers, is what I try to teach people to do is not to lie, but how to come across as comfortable, confident, and relaxed, and frankly, believable anytime you're speaking. So one of those things is eye contact. So I recommend if you're doing a media interview and you're talking to a reporter and the reporter's right in front of you, it's okay occasionally to think upward and look upwards, but when you're speaking, you should be looking right at the reporter. Or if it's done remotely, looking at the camera is much, much more effective. If you have to look away occasionally, you can look down and you'll look thoughtful. Something else that gets people in trouble is they're asked a question, well, I'm glad you asked me that. And those of you listening on the podcast, I'm quickly darting my eyes to the right. And I'm literally shifty-eyed. And it makes most people, including me, look untrustworthy. So I do want you to be aware of your body language, not because you're necessarily lying. I don't want you to lie, but there's perception, there's the possibility that someone could perceive you as lying. If you do things like, fidgeting, you might be nervous and you're grabbing a pen and fidgeting with it as I am. Keep your hands free. Sometimes you think, oh, I don't want to seem nervous. I'm going to put my hands on the table like that when talking. That can make you look nervous. It frees your body. The best thing to do with your hands is move them naturally, whether it's a face-to-face meeting with an investor or a job interview virtually. You want to move your hands, move your face, move your body. That's how you will look more comfortable, confident, relaxed, and ultimately believable. But as Sam Altman, like anyone who tells you definitively, might have a credibility problem themselves. They might just have a problem with their own ability to tell the truth, because I don't think anyone can really figure it out that quickly or that easily. More in a moment. Okay, let's get on to some good news here that often doesn't get enough credit and enough of our mental space. Fast walking linked to longer life. According to CNN, new research suggests that just 15 minutes of fast walking a day can deliver significant health benefits, even matching the gains from the recommended 150 minutes of moderate activity per week. This is good news. The study published in the American Journal of Preventive Medicine followed nearly 85,000 mostly low income and Black participants for more than 16 years. Those who walked briskly for at least 15 minutes daily reduced their risk of premature death by nearly 20%, compared with only 4% for slow walkers covering 3 hours a day. Experts say walking speed is a strong health indicator. People in poor shape simply can't walk quickly. Fast walking has been shown to lower risk for heart failure, arrhythmias, type 2 diabetes, cancer, and dementia. It can also improve cholesterol, blood pressure, and immune function. For best results, researchers recommend good posture, coordinated arm swings, and conscious breathing. The simple takeaway: pick up the pace, even briefly, and you could add years to your life. So, what's the real message here? We're constantly looking for this next drug, this next hormone therapy, this next red light gimmick, the perfect cold plunge, the perfect snack bar with all the protein, when the answer to longer life quite often is just stand up and walk briskly. The time you spend researching some perfect supplement sitting down is time you could go for a brisk walk 15 minutes a day. It will dramatically reduce the chances of you dying prematurely. So let's dig a little deeper. The reason I'm attracted to a story like this is stories like this, they do get picked up briefly. You see it out of the corner of your eye. It's typically buried. It's on some obscure website, or CNN's got it buried way down. And if we do see the story, we kind of forget it instantly because there's not this instant thing to buy. It's much easier to hear about this magical new herb or berry from 12,000 miles away that's been ground into powder and is now a magic supplement. And we can get it on Amazon for $89 a month. It's much easier to feel like, oh, I'm being proactive. I just bought this new supplement. This isn't a supplement. You typically don't see stories like this nearly as often as stories for the latest supplement, the latest vitamin, the latest protein package bar that some celebrity is endorsing, because no one's making money off of this advice. That's frankly why it is more credible. Is no one's selling you. I can't make money off of you by encouraging you to walk briskly 15 minutes a day. You don't need special shoes. You don't need a special gym membership. You don't need to call my 800 number. Get the TJ walking coach to encourage you to walk 15. You don't need to hire me as a coach. So that's why we tend not to hear messages like that. It's not repeated. So a message like this comes out once, maybe you see it once every couple of months. But meanwhile, you and I are going to get thousands of messages today telling you, drink this magic smart water, take this magic greens potion, promoted by all the top podcasters for $89 a month. We're constantly bombarded with more stuff to put in our mouth, more gadgets to buy that end up in our closet, more apps to download, which just means more sitting time, when a simple thing like walking faster. Now, what I take away from this is, for me, I've got to get better at walking. I love to walk. I typically aim for around 15,000 steps a day. That is built in organically through just trying to move more. Other than sitting here with you, I try to be up moving most of the day. But I will confess, I'm not a fast walker. It's not because I can't walk fast. It's just I find it a lot more relaxing to do slow walking. So this is a reminder to me, I need to put the gas pedal on. Where I walk fast is when I'm in New York City or a big city and there's slow people around me. That's when I want to quickly walk. I get impatient then. And I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign, but I get my competitive juices moving. I want to walk fast. I want to pass these people on the sidewalk. But left to my own devices, I'm kind of a slow walker, not because I can't. I also run every day. I do jog. I try to either run out on the streets, or if it's really hot, as it is right now in Florida, hit the treadmill for at least 20 minutes a day, with a part of those being sprints. But I would urge you, give some thought to that. It's too easy to get into this trap of saying, oh, I'm busy, my finances aren't great, I want to join this fancy gym membership, that'll motivate me. I want to buy this, fancy new tennis racket, then I'll play tennis racket. You don't need more stuff. You don't need more money. If your legs work and you have the thinnest of old sandals, you can walk for 15 minutes a day. So I realize you've probably heard this before, but it is a stark reminder of how little things that cost nothing can have a huge impact. Again, this latest research shows that you reduce your risk by 20% if you want. Now, this is a causal relationship. It's always difficult when looking at health. Is it simply a correlation or a cause? I'm sorry, it's a correlation study. So people who walk 15 minutes a day quickly, that's correlated with a 20% reduction in early death. So I can't prove to you it's causation, but that's true of almost anything health related. And that's why I urge you to take this seriously. So let's all try to walk a little more. Let's walk after the show today. I'm going to try to walk as soon as this is finished. Okay, more fun to come in just a moment. Okay, for Attorney General passed jail time for Beto O'Rourke in Texas in a redistricting fight. This is getting ugly, folks. Very, very ugly indeed in Texas. According to the Texas Tribune, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has asked a judge to jail, that's right, jail, former U.S. Representative Beto O'Rourke, accusing him of violating a court order that barred certain fundraising linked to the Democrats' walkout over a new congressional map. Paxton's motion alleges that at a Fort Worth rally, O'Rourke solicited donations despite an injunction urging attendees to text "fight" for a link to contribute. The order was issued after Paxton sued O'Rourke and his group Powered by People for allegedly raising money to support the walkout. O'Rourke's attorneys counter that Paxton misinterpreted both the remarks and the injunction's scope, noting it not only prohibited non-political fundraising, they also plan to seek sanctions against Paxton's office. The legal clash comes amid a broader GOP push to end the Democrats' exodus, which has stalled passage of a redistricting plan giving Republicans 5 more U.S. House seats. Paxton's lawsuit is one of several moves to pressure the absent lawmakers back to the Capitol. Okay, so what's the real message here? What's going on in Texas is absolute corruption. It is a nail in the coffin of democracy in the United States. The Attorney General of Texas is essentially trying to outlaw the political opposition, not to mention shredding the Constitution and little things like freedom of speech. Beto O'Rourke, a former congressman, is now a private citizen, and it's his right to encourage people to support Democrats who don't want to see all the Democratic members of the House in Texas eliminated. Let's dig deeper here. So if you haven't followed this closely, Donald Trump is worried. He's very, very worried that the Democrats are going to take control of the United States House of Representatives in the 2026 elections. And very similar to what he did after 2020, where he called up the election supervisor and corruptly and illegal in Georgia and told him, find me 11,000 more votes. I want to win. I don't care how you do it. It's basically what he said. He's now essentially doing that to governors around the country. If you're a Republican governor, he's saying, get me more votes in the United States House of Representatives. That's what he's telling people. And the governor of Texas is obliging. He's saying, okay, boss, you want more votes? We'll do what we can. We're going to, in an unprecedented way, rewrite all the boundaries for congressional races here in Texas, not once every 10 years, as it's been done by both parties all over the country based on census data. We'll just do it now to try to, rejigger things to screw over Democrats and to eliminate the will of the people to elect some Democrats. There are millions of Democratic voters in Texas. This is taking away five seats that Democrats would be expected to hold. And it's one thing to gerrymander, because frankly, both parties have done that. But this is ratcheting things up to such an extraordinarily extreme nature. First of all, saying we're going to imprison the Democrats who don't want to come back and give a quorum. I mean, it's their right to exert power the way they want to. They're exerting power by trying to stop the Republicans from having enough votes to pass this extremist anti-democratic legislation. It's their right to do it as elected representatives. It is, in fact, exactly what their constituents want them to do, by and large. They are listening to their constituents. They are representing the will of their constituents, which is what democracy is supposed to be about. And now we have a situation where the Republicans, and specifically the Attorney General there, are saying, okay, we are now essentially going to outlaw political opposition. It's not enough for us to rewrite the laws to make it virtually impossible for a Democrat to get elected. We are going to go one step further, and voices, whether they're elected or not, or former elected officials like Beto O'Rourke, let's just start putting you in prison. Let's fine you, let's imprison you, let's jail you. And that's a great lesson if your teacher is the Soviet Union. That's a great lesson if your teacher is fascism from the 1930s in certain European countries. It's a great lesson if your role model is Viktor Orban, or a dictator in Turkey or Poland or in the Philippines from time to time. But it's not a good lesson for Americans if you believe in democracy. We're going to be following up on this story. It is quite troubling. But I got to switch now in our remaining time to story 5. And again, I want to welcome you for joining me. This is a new show. We're in sort of a slow test mode right now. And it's a slow rollout. It's a soft launch. We'll be launching officially on September 2nd, 2025. Only a few weeks away. And at that point, it's going to be on all major social media platforms. And the audio version will be on Google Play, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube Music, all the major platforms in podcasting. So please mark your calendars. I hope you are there for us and can join us for that as well. So let's hop into our final story of the day. A bit troubling, but I give it to you straight. What I'm trying to do here is give you an objective analysis through a communications lens, through a personal development lens, to help you become more successful in your professional life and your personal life, and to distill how messaging filters throughout our culture, our media ecosystem, and our lives. Issue 5, Democrats can't buy gratitude in Texarkana. According to the New York Times, Texarkana thrived under President Biden's economic policies. Green energy, investment, job growth, and a $1 billion lithium plant funded through bipartisan infrastructure spending. Unemployment fell, GDP surged, and new training programs prepared locals for renewable energy jobs. Yet in 2024, voters in the twin Texas-Arkansas city rewarded Democrats with less support than ever. Donald Trump increased his margin, winning more than 75% of the vote. I mean, folks, that's crazy to win by that huge of a percentage. Political scientists say this is a stark example of deliverism failing. Voters benefiting from government action, but refusing to credit the party that delivered it. Cultural identity, distrust of elites, and resentment towards liberal values outweighed pocketbook gains. It's not unique to Texarkana. Across the South and rural America, including the nation's poorest states like Kentucky, Mississippi, and Alabama, Republicans dominate elections despite higher poverty rates and greater reliance on federal aid. Analysts say this reflects decades of GOP success in tying party loyalty to cultural values, patriotism, and opposition to progressive social change rather than to direct economic benefit. For Democrats, the lesson is sobering. You can create jobs, invest billions, and improve lives, but in communities where political identity is deeply ingrained, those efforts will not change votes. Okay, what's the real message here? Democrats are wasting their time if they think they can actually bring jobs to places like Texarkana, invest in people, invest in factories, boost their overall economy by billions of dollars over a few years and think they're going to get one vote. In fact, the voters of Texarkana said, hey, thanks for all the ways you've improved our daily living, our daily lives, our income. Now we're voting against you by a largest margin ever. That is, in fact, exactly what happened. Let's dig a little deeper now. Let's look at some of the facts. So an $1 billion lithium plant was introduced into this area thanks to the Democrats. Green training programs. Unemployment dropped from almost 7% to 4.2% during the Biden years. And so many other things happened to the economy. The domestic product of the area skyrocketed, jobs went up, inflation went down. And how did it result in voting? Trump got a 50-point margin of victory in this area. So this is where I differ with a lot of Democratic strategists who say, oh, the Democrats lost the working man because they supported NAFTA. I don't think there's any evidence whatsoever to suggest the Democrats lost a single vote because of NAFTA, which is now some 30 years old. No one even knows what it stands for any longer. What Republicans have learned a long time ago is you can vote again and again and again to deregulate, to pollute the environment, to raise taxes on poor people, cut their services, give tax cuts to your wealthiest benefactors, your wealthiest contributors. Voters will never penalize you for that. All you have to do is say, look at these Democrats over here. They like Castro. They like socialism. They want your child to have a sex change operation at lunchtime at the public schools. They want your daughter to have to compete in a swimming match against a 6'4", 300-pound muscular transsexual. They're constantly trotting out these things. They don't like good-looking women, and that's why they hate Sydney Sweeney, the most recent example of this culture war. And it's all well and good for a lot of centrists, moderates, mainstream people to say, enough of the culture wars. Let's roll up our sleeves and work to help people. It's not working. So a message to any of you Democrats, especially if you're a Democratic candidate, you've got to roll up your sleeves and you've got to fight the culture war. Simply delivering, this whole concept of deliverism has failed. It's failed massively. It failed in places like Ohio, where so much was done to reinvigorate the economy of that state during the last 4 years and didn't get a single vote. It lost votes. So Democrats, if you're at all serious about ever being a party with power again, You got to realize it's not enough to deliver. You got to deliver messages of why culturally you share the same values with American voters and why the other party has values that are against the interest of most Americans. And it can't just be in economic terms. Ultimately, we as human beings are about more than what's in our pocketbook. Republicans get that. They understand that. Democrats don't. And the Bernie Sanders of the world, they've got a a nice cushion of being in almost a lily white Vermont, highly educated state. They can talk about economic issues almost exclusively and talk about how bad corporations are. It's not flying in places like Texas and Arkansas and Florida and West Virginia and Alabama and Kentucky. It's just not resonating. And it's time Democrats have to realize that. I want to thank you for spending time with me today. It's been a lot of fun. As always, we're going to wrap up today. Just as a reminder, if you saw anything, heard anything you liked here, please leave a comment, subscribe, sign up for notifications, and let me hear from you. Let me know what issues you would like to see dissected next. I'm TJ Walker. This is Filtered. See you tomorrow.